today? May 10th, 2022. Let's start with roll call. Jason Thielen?
Jason Thielen present.
Kelly Law present.
Jessica Smuon present.
Lon Lott present.
And has Greg Gordon zoomed in yet?
Greg Gordon present.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. Okay, we'll start with a prayer by myself and a pledge by Lon Lott. Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity to gather together as a council and to be able to make these important decisions for the city. Please guide us and direct us and to make the best decisions and be in the spirit of collaboration. And we're thankful for this opportunity to serve the residents of Alpine. And we say these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please rise. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the budget discussion.
Yep. Okay, so I thought in the first approximately 30 minutes or so of the meeting, it could be less if there's not questions, that we could just go over a few things in the budget. And my plan from here, I'd like between now and hopefully the next city council meeting to meet individually or with two council members just to go over things in detail, answer any questions that you have, so that we can work towards addressing those for, I think it's June 28th would be the final budget. So tonight,
Shane, could you send us options on when to meet?
yeah,
like you have in the past?
I'll send an email
Okay.
probably tomorrow after our PSD meeting. So, so tonight we need to adopt the tentative budget, and this is the first time Kelly will have been involved with that. By the first meeting in May, cities need to adopt a tentative budget. So it's just kind of the framework, or it's like a draft or preliminary document outlining where we think we'll be, and then we make adjustments between now and then. We scheduled the public hearing tonight. The public hearing is not required for the tentative budget. I know a lot of cities do it every year. We have done it sometimes, and others we haven't. But we have scheduled that. And then we'll adopt the budget, the tentative budget, by resolution. This was not in the packet, but it's sitting in front of you tonight. So just go over probably usually what's most interesting for everyone are the projects. But let me back up. Let me just start first. So as we drill down on our where we think our revenues and everything will be as we get a little bit closer to the end of the budget year, we'll make some adjustments, but we believe we need to propose a tax increase to help with our additional expenses in public safety, and then some on the city side as well. The last time we had one was in 2019 when Cedar Hills pulled out of the public safety district, and both cities had to come up with some money. William has been working on some graphs and things that we'll present at a future meeting, and probably we'll look at when we meet individually. Just kind of looking at where we're at with tax rates versus other cities in the county. And then something that we'll discuss and probably propose is, and we may not have to do it every year, but there's not an inflation component built into property property tax rates. And so because of that, several cities are actually doing it and have been doing it for a few years, either holding their rate from the previous year or having a target percentage or whatever and making an adjustment for that. So they have a truth in taxation process every year. I've talked to Spanish Fork City. They've been doing this 4 of the last 6 years. They've had a little increase to help with additional costs, wages and everything go up every year. Payson City's done it for, I think they said 9 years. Payson's more, we hold the rate from last year. Spanish Fork's more, it might be last year's rate, it might be something different. I know Linden City's considering that, and I think Lehigh does it or has done too. Anyway, so that's something we'll look at, and we'll have an analysis of what that would have meant for like the last couple of years, just to give you an idea what that would look like. Those cities said that the first year they did it, their citizens had a few questions, just a handful of people, and after that, it's not really been an issue.
And it was the same with the Alpine School District too.
That's right, yes.
So Alpine School District, because what they're doing is just basically setting a minimum threshold, so a percentage. And so because they've been able to do that the last 3 years, they have enough where basically they are raising everybody's salaries to be more competitive on a national level. And then they're also hiring more teachers to reduce class sizes. So it's been able to help a lot.
Yeah. So, I guess the challenge is there's not the inflation component already built in. To keep your employees, there's adjustments every year. And usually what happens is you take away somewhere in operations and eventually that will catch up to you. And so that's something that we'd like to look at. Let's see. So in this budget, we are showing, and we don't know if this will happen yet or not, but we're assuming that we'll get the other half of our Arpa funds, and we're making the assumption that the Arpa funds would be spent in this budget year. If it goes into the next one, that's fine with the timeline and the rules associated with those funds, but we are making that assumption right now. Even though we haven't 100% nailed down with the council where they'll be spent. We've made kind of a proposal. But the other thing, we've applied for multiple grants, and with projects, and we'll get to the project sheet here in a second, with projects that we've proposed, depending on our success in obtaining these grants, we may have to make some adjustments. If we feel really confident, like we've got a couple of grants that we've all but maybe the official award's been made. If not, we have kind of a verbal.
No, it's official.
Okay, so the ones that are official are on the project list. Below that, I've got some others that we've applied for but have not received word. For example, the Utah County Arpa funds, I had a call from them today. We had applied for 3 projects. They needed some clarification on one of them. And I asked the lady if they had any kind of a timeline, and she said, well, not really. We hope it's done by June, but it could be November. We'll have to make some adjustments in those cases. So some of these projects might kind of be pushed to the end of the budget year to see if we're successful in getting these other funds. Did everyone get the email that I sent with the adjusted budget? The spreadsheet's a little crazy, doesn't print right sometimes, and I did not realize that until yesterday morning.
Yeah, Shane, I think you talked about this before, but
Yeah.
can you just talk to the roads thing on there? real quick, cause it was like 580 and 21 and 7 something, and then, and in 22 and then 23, it's like 459.
Yeah, so let's go to, William, while we're talking about this, will you just hand everyone a copy of that other document? So that should be in the Class C road funds. If you look on page 5, and I apologize, there's a couple of blank pages in here too. No, on the document that I emailed to you, page 5. I think this is where Kelly's looking.
Yeah, I think it's, well,
Is that the right one?
yeah, I think it's 4. Well, I'm looking at the line item called streets on page 4. But does that have a breakout somewhere else?
Oh, yes, there is more detail. So let's go to page,
Roads or streets?
Streets.
it's actually
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be about 25 probably. No, it's further than that. It's on page 29.
Oh, under detail, of course.
Okay, so our street projects are funded in this particular budget from 2 different funds. They're both general fund monies, but if you look at this sheet that has all the projects, I've kind of color coded this so that the orange projects on the left are general fund projects. The blue is water, purple is pressure irrigation, green is sewer, the red is storm drain, yellow is cemetery, and the dark blue is
General.
grants,
Okay.
like the grant portion of a project. And then the blue to the right of that are impact fee funds. So if you look at the first project, street maintenance projects, we've got 630,000 coming from Class C road funds and mass transit. There are 2 line items in these other documents. And then 100,000 coming from streets. The other 13,000 is about 3,500 for the MAG active transportation plan, and 9,500 we have in there for a crosswalk improvement. And so down at the bottom, there's 113,000. If you look on page 29 under capital outlay,
Yep.
that number is there. And that corresponds throughout all these documents. The bottom number should be in a capital line item in one of those funds. So we're proposing 730,000 in just street maintenance projects. Now, if we were to get the grant to help with the Grove Drive project, there's quite a bit of that is not eligible as part of that grant, and it's kind of a bigger ticket project, so we might need to pull our maintenance back a little bit for 1 year or something, to kind of shuffle some of that money towards that project. You know, if it was 800,000 or something, kind of like the 800 South or Pioneer Drive, we could probably do both. But this one's a little bit bigger because of the realignment and the box culvert and everything. So we'd probably have to make some adjustments. So, I mean, one of the, on these projects, one of the big decisions that we'll have to make is on the fire station. We budgeted some money this year to go towards it, and we can just kind of, we've just scratched the surface, and it's about to really start going with the design and everything. We can I know Lon made this comment last year, if we'd saved the money we budgeted for the last 2 or 3 years or whatever, we could pay for a third of it. We could just kind of put this money in its own little line item in the capital improvement fund or wherever that's earmarked for the fire station. We can do that. Our general fund balance is coming up. We could possibly take some money from there and help with that and bond for less. Our capital improvement fund is also increasing, so we could take some money from there to help bond for less. So as we get closer into knowing what those actual costs will be, we can bring some scenarios to the council, and I think we should be able to make something work.
Hey, Shane, a question. So I think it was for this current budget year, above our, max savings rate, it looked like we may have roughly 800K above that. Is that included in next year's budget, to pull that back to say that that max level, and is that accounted for in these project lists or?
So what we have done when we have an excess in our general fund, so I know most of you have heard this, but you can only maintain between 5 and 25% of your general fund budget in your general fund, but the law allows you to transfer anything over that to your capital improvement fund, and you can use that for projects. So that's what we've done. So typically, at the end of the budget year, Dave Sanderson will look at things and say, we need to transfer X dollars to our capital improvement fund, and that's what helps us build these other projects. And that's one of the reasons where our capital improvement fund has been increasing, and we'll have some graphs soon that William's working on showing that, is because, I think in the COVID year, we pulled back on a few projects and things because we were unsure on revenues, so that helped with the increase. But to answer your question, Greg, yes, that is accounted for. So what we do is it's kind of like having a savings account for projects, and then if we have a big project, we'll just take, maybe it's 500,000 from that fund balance and bring it back in as revenue to help fund a project in that budget year. So it is accounted for in a way, and we rely on that to do these, like, say, for example, the pickleball project. We'll use some of those funds. Does that answer your question, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. One project that's not on here that I think we should consider, based on what's going on, is to improve the parking lot at Smooth Canyon. I think we could make some changes up there where it's not likely that we'll end up with additional property. I can't remember if I mentioned in this meeting or if it was just some individual council members or the mayor. I think we could relocate the restroom up there and improve that parking lot and do some other things and have kind of a finished park. When it was built, we built half of it. So that's something I think we should consider. And last time we had it on the agenda, we had a lot of people here and some that weren't real happy that we were doing it, but
Well, I mean, some of their argument, though, was that there's going to be another half of the park. And now that we know that it's not there, we obviously have to complete the park.
do something, yeah.
That was
Right.
a lot of their argument. Some of the argument, though, was that they just didn't want any more parking. Even though they didn't want parking on the street, they didn't want any more parking.
Well, think it's hard to say that there's sufficient parking there.
I agree completely. I agree. We
I-
need to address it.
Yeah.
I've been there with like just one game, I think, and you know, it still had about half the parking it needed. Maybe there was two, but there was no way that it was going to house, you know, that you could have, you know, just a couple of games going and still not have, you know, 10 or 20 cars out on the road. And they weren't going to go over to the church, right? Because that's much further and you cross the road. So they go pushing down the road and into the neighborhood and so on. But I thought that was a good addition. Another thought, Shane, that we talked about last year was Peterson Park. So I didn't know if you had that, you know, some fixes and improvements there. I don't know if that's included anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good one too. That I'll add on the list here to discuss further. If there's a consensus from the council to tear that building down, we can put that on maybe the next city council agenda and take care of that one.
I think that'd be a good idea.
I'm for tearing it down.
Okay, so that would be one improvement there.
Can that include fixing that parking lot a little bit, moving those big pieces of cement or whatever's up there?
It could, yeah. Yeah, those, I think they're actually granite.
Yeah, grand.
Yeah, that was from Harvey Hutchinson on some deal he had. But we could move those anytime. We could have those moved tomorrow if we needed to.
They could just be slid to make a perimeter
edge.
so cars could
Yeah.
go into the parking lot.
Yeah. So, a project that also is not on here is the Canyon Crest improvements, but that's a ways down the road, but probably 5 years. But it sounds like that will be funded. Just an update on that. It will be within the existing right of way. We have 66 feet. There will be a 10-foot kind of a multi-use path on the east side. And then they'll actually have to shift the curb and gutter over to the west. So just like picking up the existing road now and moving it to the west to make it all work within the right of way.
We would have a percentage to contribute
Yeah.
those, so we'd want to budget that.
6.77, yeah. But that won't be for this year. But where I was going with that is we wouldn't probably want to do much on that end of the park because of what's going to happen in 5 years. So, okay. Let's see. So just the explanation on these projects. The second one on this list, LTAP assessment of city roads, signs, and sidewalks. The council approved the funds to do that. It won't happen until this fall. They use students from Utah State to help with that. We're expecting that probably in August. Then we talked about the active transportation, crosswalk improvements. This is something Greg has talked to me about, and we're going to talk further, but we've got enough in here right now for at least one, like where you push, it's called an RRFB, where you push the button and the lights flash to bring more attention to the crosswalks. So I'd suggest the Westfield Road crossing at Sycamore first, unless we see a greater need somewhere else. Miscellaneous trail improvements, that's not anything specific. It's just money in there if we need signage or whatever. Three Falls Upper parking lot. I don't think we're gonna have any expense here. I think the developer is going to build that. But I think they were obligated by the agreement to build 2 stalls. So we put some in here just in case, but I think that we'll know on that soon anyway, if we have any expense there. Pickleball courts. We've talked about that. Burgess Park Pavilion improvements. So we talked about improving the pavilion on the lower end of Burgess Park. But as we had contractors come out and look at it, the ceiling is so low, they were afraid we're gonna spend a bunch of money and then have it get ruined quickly. So the thought was maybe tear that down and build a new pavilion, maybe even a different location closer to the parking lot. There's a little triangle just across the street. Is that a Pony League field, the bigger one? Anyway, the bigger of the three fields there's kind of a triangle on the kind of south, I guess, of that might be a good location. There's trees around there and everything, and somebody could park and go have their family reunion or whatever right there without having to walk across the road and everything with no parking. So if that's I have 50,000 in here. If that's a 20 by 20, that's probably enough. If it's a 20 by 40 based on the numbers I got after this went out, it wouldn't be enough. Just the pavilion building itself would be about 50 grand.
And Shane, I haven't measured in that triangle spot, but it just kind of, I've gone by and it looked like maybe the smaller size may fit in there better. But that's just how it feels without measuring it.
Yeah, and we'll do a site plan to make sure what would fit there. Okay, Moyle Park landscape improvements. We've had this on the project list for a couple of years and haven't been able to get to it, but we're finally getting Legacy Park over here done, and we're gonna get the roundabout done, and then hopefully this is something that we can take on for the entrance to Moyle Park. We have the design and everything for it. So cemetery expansion, that project actually started. They started cutting trees down last week, and then we need to get a retaining wall built on the west end, and then we can get some bids for grading and start shaping that up. So that will cross budget years for sure.
Has the city had many calls on that, or?
No, I let Jeff Bennett know, and he made sure all the neighbors knew, so.
Is there any way we can put a gate on the north side, on the north entrance there? We hear that from residents, kids racing through there on their motorcycles, and a way to let people know it's just not a racetrack.
Through. I mean, we can do gates. My biggest concern has always been with gates of having to have someone every day go lock and unlock, if that's what we're doing. Chief William, doesn't somebody have to do that at, what's the park called in Highland?
Highland Glen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do that in the morning. Yeah, so what happens, we have a call that's automatically generated every morning. Remind the officers to do that.
Is it kind of a pain?
It gets locked, when the officers get over there around 10. It just depends on what's happening.
Then open in the morning.
Yeah. It is kind of a pain, but.
Just do it.
Yeah.
So that situation's, in my mind, a little bit different because it's this secluded park, and they've had a lot of, wasn't it due to vandalism
Yeah,
and
we've had
things?
a lot of vandalism, and that park's become a magnet for North County juveniles to come hang out after dark, so, from all over the place.
But if that's what the council wants, is lock gates or automatic gates or whatever, we can do it. It's not on paper, but our intention was to have some kind of an arched gate that matches the Main Street and Grove Drive entrance, just to make it look nice down there. So, let us know what you'd like us to look at, and we can do that. So, I mean, that one's one that probably doesn't have to be open all the time because there's other ways to come in. But if we're locking the cemetery down totally every day, that would take actually 5 gates if they were open and closed every day.
Yeah, it's just the feedback I hear, and I'm sure everyone here has heard from those individuals that live up against it, that there's the same type of thing happening in that pool, in that park behind their houses, drugs and people racing around there really fast, and they come in that way. It might not solve everything, but
Yeah.
it might be an idea to try to help them out.
And the couple times that someone has said anything, I said, have you called the police? And most time they've said they haven't. So I don't know what's going on. So yeah, let us know what you'd like us to look at there. We always put some money in here for tree removal and trimming. Peterson Park, we've spent a lot of money trimming trees down there. Just mostly due to the type of trees that are there, I guess. The old ones along the ditch.
Do we have many people using Peterson Park?
I don't really have a good way to gauge that because I'm not down there much at all. I mean, when I drive by, I look down in there and I don't see a lot, but there's so many trees that they could be there and you wouldn't see them from there.
There's a lot of walk-through, yes. The one concern that, there is a lot of people that walk through there. I have had questions by people saying, we'd be here more, but we think it's private property to come into it. So if we had a designated sign by, at the end of Paradise Lane there that says this is a city trail, something like that, then people would probably feel more comfortable. They think they're going into someone's yard to get to the park.
Okay.
Seeing, I don't believe we have a written easement on Paradise Lane for
Yeah.
access.
Yeah, so that might be one of the things we need to address then, is to see how we can, and then if we can't get that kind of easement, then as we're working on the Canyon Crest trail, have a trail come into the park off of that trail, up off of Canyon Crest, so that it is a designated trail head or trail marker that comes into the park. But yes, people do use it, and I've seen a lot of people taking pictures in the park down by the bridge.
The bridge, yeah, no, I've seen that.
Yeah.
And not from our city, but, you know.
But I would agree, I think it's one of the least used for what it is, right in the middle of the city. I mean, it does get used in the winter for a sledding hill really well. It might be nice to try to think of a way to build that up a little bit, because it's probably the best sledding hill we have outside of Cemetery Hill, but that's where I see people in it most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I've seen too.
So there's been a few comments on that. We've also had a few calls and emails on the park at the top of South Point, up by the cell, across the street, I guess, from the cell towers, like saying, "Hey, how come the city doesn't maintain this?" And it is a little bit of a forgotten park, I guess. So we probably should look at some point of what we see as the future up there. Originally, when it was built, there was a basketball court up there, a volleyball court. The wind blew all the time, and if you didn't make your basket, your ball's going down the hill. So it maybe wasn't the best design to start with. But that's something we should look at, I guess. There's trails up there. I haven't been on them for years, but there's probably opportunities for even more, maybe a trail loop or something up there that could be nice.
And that does get used, and I know that some of the neighbors over there, they'll do service projects and clean it up, and because they do use it. Mel Clement, it's right, the trail is right by his place, and they use it.
Back to Peterson Park on that access easement. So I think this was that land swap was made, I think in, late spring or summer 2015. At least it was discussed, and I wasn't clear on what happened. I know it was contemplated at that time to have a easement coming, through that private road. But I'm not, I'm not sure if that was ever obtained, right? But there was, I think there was some sort of land trade, but I'm just not clear if that, I know people use it like that, but it's just not clear. And I'm not sure if, Shane, if we have that anywhere, if we have that, or if how that finally, finished up.
So the land trade did happen. I'll have to double check, but I don't think an easement on Paradise Lane was part of that. Because there were other property owners outside of the one we were dealing with on the land trade. The land trade was to gain the right-of-way we needed for the future widening of Canyon Crest Road. And I'm not talking about the widening like we were talking before, but Canyon Crest Road, for most of it, has 42 feet of pavement and 66 feet of right-of-way. Through Harvey Hutchinson's property, and he's passed away now, we did not have the full right-of-way width there. When Canyon Crest was improved in probably like 2004, right around in there, he would not work with the city. It was just kind of a difficult situation. He had a lot of trees and he had a high value on them, and it just wouldn't work at the time. So what we ended up doing is we obtained what Austin has highlighted in yellow on this screen to make the right-of-way whole, and in return we gave him, and as I recall it was a square foot for square foot trade, we gave him this more rectangular shaped piece there. And so the intent was to be able to build a sidewalk or path from Ridge Drive down to basically Paradise Cove Lane, which would put sidewalk in an area where it's really needed. Because crossing, for kids to cross Canyon Crest on those curves and everything, it's just not an ideal situation. So
So the concern, if you were to highlight, Austin, that other small place, the trade, that area right there, see that now is private property. Mm-hmm. And the trail, you can see where the trail is just below your arrow. The trail comes right through his private property. So both sides of that area up to Paradise Lane, you go back up there. So people are trying to come down Paradise Lane and then go in to the park. And that's the connection that goes across private property.
So I think we did retain an easement across the piece that Harvey got from the city. But I don't believe it included an easement on the asphalt part. So yes. But I'll double check that. Okay, so Peterson Park's on the list to consider. We just got Waterline Projects. Those plans for this year's budget, we'll do a project out here on Center Street and then up on Quell Hollow, so that we can get that road resurfaced here in the near future. So we haven't picked what we would do for the next year's budget project yet. If this is one of those, we have a grant that we applied for to help build a new water tank. So if we were successful with that, that would probably be the project for that next budget year. So, Alpine Cove connection, that's part of the project that we're getting ready to bid out. It looks like it won't cross budget years, but I've got it on here just in case. So we'll make that adjustment at the end. And then some pressurized irrigation improvements that we're looking at. Miscellaneous sewer improvements. Usually This involves raising or lowering manholes when we do overlay projects because we don't have any major issues right now with our sewer system. So we're not replacing lines or anything at this point in time. And then storm drain, you know, we put in a sump here or there, or clean some sumps or different things like that is what's in that miscellaneous improvements. Okay, and then I've got projects with grants, the fire station exhaust system. The fire department got a grant to put an exhaust system in each station in Highland and Alpine. There's a little part of that we're responsible for. The Lambert Park Poppy Preservation, that's a grant that was awarded. I think the amount was $21,600, and then the other half of that we would fund. And then the Lambert Bonneville Shoreline Trail Connection was also awarded, and it's a 50-50 match, so about $74,000 from a grant and $74,000 from the city.
And remind me where that's at?
That is essentially connecting from what was the 90-degree bend in Grove Drive by Russins up to Dry Creek, where the Dry Creek crossing is on Grove Drive.
So it's basically along Grove Drive.
Yeah. So it's an asphalt trail along the north side of the road.
So people will be able to walk on Grove Drive and not have to worry about getting hit as much.
It's just there below the cove.
Yeah.
It's
No,
right
in
through the cove.
It's through the cove.
Right.
The lower end of the
The
cove
lower
is
end of
what
the
you're
cove.
saying.
North
Yeah.
side of,
Yeah,
right.
north side of Grove Drive.
And are we gonna use that as we talk about the box culvert modifications we're doing? Or is that completely separate?
Yeah, so we, if everything comes together, it can all happen at once. If not, a lot of the trail would be fine. There would be part of it if the Grove Drive realignment project came later that might have to be modified. But I think there's enough benefit to go ahead and put it in.
That's great. How do we get that grant? Who is that?
Jessica,
That's fantastic.
Jessica
with the help
spearheaded the
of
grant.
the staff helped
Yeah,
out a lot
they
too.
did.
We needed that, so that's really
That was
great.
good.
Yep, it should be a good one, so.
So Jessica did both of the grants and did the work, and the city staff was really helpful in getting all the information too. So they worked really well together.
That's
So-
another case kind of like in front of Harvey Hutchison's place where the right of way's there. It's all brush right now, so it's gonna look a lot different after this project's done, but I think it'll be very beneficial.
So when you look at these numbers, can you project if we did have a wrap tax, what that amount would we be collecting for that based on these numbers?
I just looked at that today and it was about 100,000 if
Okay.
we did the wrap tax. So based on, I think it's 2021 values.
Do we have a deadline? Like if we did want to go ahead and have the city vote on it this year, do we have a deadline or what is the deadline?
I will find that out.
Okay.
You mean in an election?
Well,
You
we don't
to-
have a municipal, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Cause, so I think they cost like maybe $15,000, but if it passed, we would be $85,000 positive after the expense, so,
Yeah. Okay, I'll get that info.
okay.
Okay, and then down below, there's some projects that aren't on here, like fiber optics, Main Street improvements, and then these potential grant projects. That if we're successful, we'll massage this list and fit them in there.
Were you able to look a little bit further into the bonding versus, it's still bonding, but it was through the USDA, the 2.5% and
Yeah.
it's unlimited.
I'll be talking with Mark Anderson
Okay.
with Zions. And I'll get that answer.
Shane, for your information on interest rates, New Era for the Bayview landfill sold a bond yesterday for $2.89 million, or 2.89% on $2 million. We're going to close on it next week.
That's a good rate. I think that's actually better than what Mark thought.
We thought, I personally thought that it was going to be 3.5 to 4,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, but it came in JP Morgan Chase, 10-year, no call, so you can't pay it off early, but it was 2.89%. A surprise.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's gone down then? Because I think Cedar Hills, didn't they get theirs like at 3.1?
Part of it could be their rating and everything, right?
We're unrated. We didn't do a rating presentation, but I can tell you that South Utah Valley Solid Waste District just bonded 2-3 weeks ago for their $33 million project to relocate the transfer station, administrative building, et cetera, came in at almost 4.0. A full percentage, a full point more. So it's all over the place.
Yeah.
I think the rate is like fluctuating that much.
Okay, is there anything else on this preliminary budget that you'd like to look at?
What about the any expected changes to TSSD rates? Does that need to be considered in here in terms of the sewer fund?
I think it'd be a total guess right now for us to anticipate what that would be. I think that would probably be best handled in a budget adjustment and a rate.
And that's
A
a
rate
pass-through
increase.
rate, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's relatively easy to handle later. So equipment, there's, a few things are, we got a little tractor that we use to plow snow and stuff that's like 20 years old, and it had a major issue this year, and it just so happens it's on the replacement schedule. And then with our additional restrooms, they like to use these little kind of, we call it a parks maintenance vehicle, I guess. They prefer those over like a pickup for servicing them. So we've had 2 in our fleet, and we're proposing to add a 3rd one. And they're used for other things like sprinkler repairs and stuff too, because they can drive all over and carry their equipment. So no other major purchases. We paid our sweeper off in this budget year. So I think there's like 80,000 in equipment. So a little lighter year for that. Yeah. Yep.
106.
It's 80,000 in capital, yeah. And that's where all the parks stuff comes in. So, but I'll send that email out so we can sit down and go over things in more detail, and what William handed out to you is kind of a 5-year comparison report. And this report's real quirky in Cassell. Heidi spent a good part of the day on it today. And there's still a couple little things we need to fix, but that'll give you something to start with. The issues that we have right now are smaller, like impact fee funds. But just realize on those percentages, like I noticed one that was 2,900% over last year. Well, the line item was $500, but it just happens to be the item that we added 14,000 to for the website. And so it looks really weird to have something that's 2,900% over last year, but that happens a lot with projects and kind of one-time things. They'll be up and down from year to year. So That's probably enough for the work session, Mayor.
Okay. Let's move on to the consent calendar. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I made a few minor corrections to the minutes, and with those, I'd make a motion that we approve the consent calendar with those corrections made.
I made one small correction as well.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved by Lon Lot and seconded by Jason Thielen to approve the consent calendar. Do we have to do a roll call vote on this too?
Correct? They need a roll call vote on the consent calendar.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Do we have any public comment? I don't think we had any sheets filled out. Okay, we'll move on to item 5, reports and presentations.
So the two finance reports are in your packet, the red-green report as well as the full finance report. We talked quite a bit about this already and trends in our funds and things, so unless anyone has any specific questions,
Okay,
we can leave it at that.
we will move on to item 6, action and discussion items. We will now open the public hearing for the fiscal year 2023 tentative budget. Do we need to pass this first, or is it after the public meeting? Okay. Okay, public hearing is now open.
Looks like they really flocked here tonight.
Did you? Very sure. Okay, with no comments, I will do we have to move to close the public hearing, or? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Lon Lot, seconded by Kelly Law. To close the public hearing. Okay, let's do a roll call vote, starting from Lon Lot. Oh, voice is fine? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. And we need to, I will entertain a motion for resolution R 2022-19, which is a resolution of the City Council of Alpine acknowledging receipt of and adoption of the tentative fiscal budget for Alpine City.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number R 2022-19, tentative budget for 2023.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Lon Lot, seconded by Jessica Smewen. We'll do a roll call vote, starting with Lon Lot.
Lon Lot, aye.
Jessica Smewen, aye.
Kelly Law, aye.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Okay, it passes. Okay, let's move on to design for, okay, so item B is they canceled, right? So that's, we'll move on to item C, which is always doggy wash at the Alpine Animal Hospital.
Okay, all right, so this was on the last city council meeting agenda, and city council asked the applicant, the petitioner, to go back and rework his design, and so he's done just that. I'll go ahead and kind of show what he's worked on here. Let's see if I can find the. So, okay, so this is kind of a concept of what, I guess that he was asked to make it match the sign that's there for the Alpine Animal Hospital. And so what you see on here, that brick, that gray brick, that's what's on the sign for the Alpine Animal Hospital. The applicant did say that it's actually a vinyl material, and so he can get the exact same material that they used on the sign and put it on the dog wash. It would be a perfect match. he's also provided these other renderings here to kind of give you a better idea of what this could look like on the property. So this is facing Alpine Highway. The back side would, face the road there. It'd have that gray brick. The sign up there, so he did look into that. So in the last meeting, I think it was discussed that was an illuminated sign. So he wanted to point out that it's actually not illuminated. There's some lights that are kind of on the roof behind it, but it doesn't, the sign doesn't actually, it's not translucent, so it doesn't glow at night, if that makes sense. So it would not be an illuminated sign. In addition to, the colors and the design changes that he's done here, he's also, proposing to do some landscaping to kind of dress it up a little bit, make it more aesthetically pleasing. This is the unit that he currently owns in Utah. So that's what that one looks like. Obviously, this would be a different design, different coloring, but you can kind of see this sign here. It's not transparent. It's more like a decal on top of a.
So I thought Austin, I remembered agreeing only to have the sign on the one side or the front. Is he still having, see, that's on the back and on the side.
In this rendering, he's showing that, and I
It's
do
showing
remember
on
that.
every single side, except for this one, it's only on
In
the
this
front.
one, and that could be a mistake. So he had someone that do the rendering for him, the photoshopped one that shows it on site. So I don't know. I know that was a motion, that feedback in the last meeting to have it
Can we
only on one
stick it
side.
behind the animal hospital?
Yeah, so
Okay.
let me see if there's anything else he wanted me to cover. I think
Yeah.
that pretty much covers what the
Okay.
changes that he's made. So this is, again, based on the feedback from the last meeting, so.
Okay.
Go to that third image. I think it's showing it facing the road. So that one has it on the side. So that'd be and that one, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. So, I mean, if you look carefully at this, you'll see on the right-hand side, that facing side, it doesn't say it on there, so I don't know if that was just the guy forgot to put it on there, or what he's proposing exactly. But if this does get approved, you could make that a part of your motion,
Yeah,
that you
I
only
was-
want the signage on one side, or however many sides to limit it.
I would suggest that, yeah, the signage is just on the very front side of that edifice. But are there any questions?
I have a couple questions. Lighting, do you know what the hours of operations are of this?
It would be a self-service dog wash, so,
Go to Urda. And you can,
oh,
I thought he said it was 24-hour, right?
24-hour? So what
We allow
about
24
lighting
hours?
on the
It's like a
outside
car
exterior
wash.
and at the entrance of that? Do we,
You can wash your car anytime.
it has lighting on the inside of the unit, and I believe there's a small light on the outside on where the door is to go into it.
'cause I'm not seeing it on there.
I don't see it on here either.
What are you looking for, Jason?
I mean, again, this is interesting to me, Austin, because do they go through we're talking about this being a proposed site plan. Typically with site plans, we get there's lighting that's attached to it and shows where the lighting is.
Yeah,
If maybe
so
they
let's-
haven't done anything in the past where they should have done some lighting in the parking lot, we could add it to it with this, but I don't know if that's one thing, landscape plan. Typically, we require a landscape plan when we do a site plan for a commercial building of any type. They have some nice looking landscaping here, but if you give me that sample that they have, the sample picture that they have at that other location, it looks horrible in my opinion. There's no landscaping around it on the other one, so.
So when you make your motion, I would suggest that you say that they abide by the landscape that they're showing in this.
But they're showing a couple different ones based on the picture. I would say that they would bring us a landscape design with the plot.
I'm seeing the same landscape design in the packet.
I was looking at the pictures that,
The picture that Austin had is for a totally different one. So what you can do is in your motion, make the signage very specific in your language for that and also be specific in your landscape requirements.
so just so I understand, on the one that Austin showed, he had a front picture, which is this one. He also had a picture looking at it from the street, from the backside of it. Austin, can you go back
Oh,
to those
yeah,
pictures?
you know what? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
let me
different than
go
the
back here.
packets.
And it's different, I mean, that's the one we're looking at.
No,
That
not
looks,
that
we don't
one.
want anything like that, right there.
Yeah.
There we have landscaping behind it. The front and side are different from the one, the picture to this picture.
You're right, there's no tree.
But typically, we would require a landscape plan if something were brought to the planning commission.
So this is, in this situation, this is not a new property. It's actually being built on the same property as the Alpine Animal Hospital. And so what we look for in landscaping is, do they have the 20% landscaping? And this property actually has 53% landscaping. So it's using the existing landscaping of the Alpine Animal Hospital, which you can see the trees and the grass.
Do we have
Again,
any say
that you
with
can
the
make it
plan?
a part of your motion that they have to have certain landscaping features, but it's not required in their site plan to show trees or a certain percentage of flowers or something like that. They just have to say it meets a certain percentage of landscaping.
Is that the case? I mean, we don't have any say in landscaping when they bring it into us? I mean,
All it
other than
really
percentages?
says, as I recall, is 20% landscaping.
Yeah, that's within the ordinance, but in the Historic Gateway Committee, because we've talked with people that, you know, this tree shouldn't be there, or it's in the line of sight. You know, we have different feedback based on different things
Yeah,
that come in. But
so we have a tree guide. Maybe that's what you're referring to, that you can
no,
only.
I guess what I'm referring to is this
Okay.
could look better or it could look worse. And if they do what the landscaping shows here, it looks better. If we simply say it meets the 20% and therefore they have to put nothing around it, are we better off as the council, and do we have any ability as the council to say, we like this landscape plan here, we approve it based on an approved landscape plan? That's, I guess, can we do that is the question.
Let me look and see how it reads.
So, just remembering back to a previous site plan that we had come in, if you remember right behind Links and Kings here, that residence that's back there, the house that came in just recently.
Right.
We actually made them put landscaping just off of Main Street there to kind of dress that up. And so they were required to put in some pine trees and some stuff there. So I know we did require that in that instance.
But in that case, they didn't have any
They didn't
landscaping.
meet.
And so they required to meet the 20%, right?
They could have met the 20% without putting that, but
So why don't you just put
we
it in
didn't
your
like
motion,
having a
Jason?
parking stall
I
up
don't
in
know
the
if
front
in the
area
motion
like
they
that.
want
Oh,
landscape
I
plan.
see what you're saying, yeah.
Well, just do it according to this picture.
Well, second
Shrubbery.
part is, does the lighting plan meet what we need? Currently, does the lighting plan meet, do they have lighting? I mean, this is an older building, so I don't know if they had to do the parking lot lighting like you would in the newer buildings. It seems like with this new thing that they would have to meet the,
So
Yeah, especially if it's gonna be open.
in the staff report here, Jed's usually the one who looks at the lighting. And so this is what he says about the lighting in his report. He says, a lighting plan for the new building was not submitted as the application states the existing parking lot has lighting and the building itself will also be illuminated. So they did not submit a, kind of like we would see in the parking lot for a new business, like we did for the bank. They'd have a photometric light plan that shows how much light reaches which parts of the parking lot. They did not submit that for this, but the Alpine Animal Hospital does have existing lighting in the parking lot there.
And that meets our lighting requirements, or is it a situation where it's grandfathered in? Because if
I'm
this is a new
not-
structure, wouldn't they have to come up to the new code?
I'm not 100% sure if how old that lighting is on that. I don't know.
But let's be clear though, I thought you said, Austin, he said there would be a light on the structure, an additional light. Is that right? Or is he adding no additional light other than interior?
That I'm not clear where the lights are located on the unit itself. I just know that the interior is illuminated, and then kind of the roof behind the sign is illuminated. But I don't know if there's like
He does say in his proposal that he would add a light pole or a light to an existing pole if needed.
Austin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep, you're coming in.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. I've been driving and coming through a canyon. There is lighting inside of the dog wash, and as you can see, there's a lot of glass on that building. That light does stay on 24 hours a day, but the signage is not lit up. It's not bad. It's just it might have a little bit of light behind the signage, but it's not a translucent material. It's powder coated aluminum, and it just has the sign on there. And so you're not seeing that like there's a glowing ring around it or anything like that.
On your site plan, it looks like in front of the building, you have a curb. Do you have a cut curb where people could roll up into it? Or is it gonna stay as that curb where they step up onto it?
Austin, you might have to repeat his question. I can't hear him at all.
Yeah, so what he's asking is, he's asking if there would be a curb cut to get to the unit itself, because right now it's showing just a standard, curb and gutter.
If that's required, we can do that. The one that these buildings are ADA approved and can have access that way. Some do, some don't. It just depends on what's required wherever you're putting them.
I've got the code on landscaping if you want to hear how that reads. It says, as a means of mitigating safety hazards or adverse visual impacts, all areas of the site not devoted to buildings or off-street parking shall be landscaped. The landscaped area shall be not less than 20% of the total area of the site. In addition to all other plan elements, the site plan shall contain a landscape plan showing the location, type, and initial size of all planting materials and other landscape features and the location of the proposed sprinkler system.
So I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we send it back and ask for a landscape plan to be attached to this proposed site plan, as well as a lighting plan. As well as discussions with regard to ADA access concerning the cut of the curb. Or ADA, I guess looking into if that's required, and it would make it better.
Okay, we've got a motion by Jason Thielen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Jason Thielen, second by Jessica Smuin. Any discussion?
What's the reason for an ADA? What would be the reason for an ADA approach?
I'm just trying to understand the usage here. If someone were to come up to use this at nighttime, and they were to pull up into a parking spot in front of it, I'm trying to say to myself, it's dark outside. There's no lighting here off the build shining out. There's a curb they have to stand up on. It seems to me like it'd be a dangerous hazard, but if someone's has to use a wheelchair or whatnot, they couldn't get up that way. They'd have to come, I'm guessing, all the way around here to the main road, come up the side. I'm just trying to understand if we've thought through how this would work, if it's truly a proposed commercial site plan. Is that something that we should think about? Because I see the usage, people parking down there on that end, and I don't see how an ADA, someone with a disability that needs that ramp would get up there.
Makes sense. There's a curb there.
Yeah, and that's something we can check with the code and see. It would be the same for everyone.
Was your question answered, Lon?
And I would agree. If it's not needed, it's not needed. It just seems like that's one of the things I would think about if I was building a commercial.
Questions?
Yeah, on the lighting, it sounds obvious that as small as it is, and the inside being illuminated, that it would cast light out onto the curb. I don't know that don't know that you would want another overhead light. I see the light over there by the building. It's tossed out into the parking lot. But the plan you're asking for then, Jason, is that to show where the lumens, or is that what you're looking for, the lumen aspect?
Initially, there might be a light shining out from the outside that would cover the entranceway. Thinking about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And yeah, it would be nice to see where the parking lights are in the parking lot too.
Okay, that's all questions I have on the motion.
Chief William, based on your experience of dealing with maybe teenagers and bathrooms in parks and stuff, what kind of a target is this for them?
A lot of it depends on lighting, truthfully. I mean, if there's good exterior light, we have less vandalism, less opportunities for kids to, well, if it's darker, you can hide in the dark and you're less visible. If there's lighting on the outside, that actually, obviously that deters that type of activity, so. I think the location closer to Main Street, I think, is going to curb some of that behavior, because you do get a lot more traffic on Main Street, so that will help.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Is there a way that, and I also want to add that there would also only be one Elway's doggy wash sign allowed on the building?
Right, facing the north, right? I think that's our thinking.
So did you want to amend your motion?
Yes,
to that?
please.
Will you second that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve with the exceptions that Jason outlined, requiring, is that what you're saying? Or did you want the information? It's not an approval. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to see that before approving it.
Okay, so we have a motion to see the lighting requirements and the ADA requirements, and a second by Jessica Smuin,
And landscaping.
and with the landscaping plan. So let's do a roll call vote, starting with Jason Thielen and ending with Greg Gordon.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Kelly Law, no.
Jessica Smuin, yes.
Lon Lot, no.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Okay, we'll go on to item D, which is a site plan for the AT&T co-location in Lambert Park Tower.
Okay, just really quick, can everybody make sure that your mics are turned on? I just got a message from Jane and she's having a hard time hearing. So, okay. All right, so the AT&T co-location, 1 second, let me just pull that up here. So this is on the Lambert Park Tower. This is just above the water tank on the south end of Lambert Park. We currently have 2 carriers on that tower right now, so I believe it's Sprint and Verizon, if I'm not mistaken. And so this would be a 3rd carrier going on that tower. The way we've written our ordinance is we encourage co-location, which means having more than 1 carrier on a tower. And so this would actually maximize that tower out at 3 carriers. That's what it's designed to do. In order to do this, so they would be the bottom set of antennas on the tower. The 2 other carriers would be above that. And in addition to the antennas that would go on the tower, they would actually have to have what is called a base station, which you can see here on the screen. So it's a 18 by 26 area. And so in that area, you can see that they have a number of their equipment, cabinets, and things like that. It's all on a concrete pad. And so those are, there's a generator down there as well, among other things. And so it would increase kind of the footprint below the tower, but also add antennas on the tower itself. This proposal does not substantially change the dimensions of the tower. So the federal government has defined what a substantial change is, meaning if it's a significant change, the city can deny it, but if it doesn't substantially change it, the city has to approve it. That being said, a lease agreement would be something that would have to be worked out in order for this to be approved and to go on the tower. So that's the proposal. Do we have any questions?
Make a motion that we approve the proposed site plan.
I second it.
Any discussion?
Just that the lease agreement would need to be approved prior to.
Yeah, we have a draft lease agreement that will come back to council for approval.
Okay.
And
So I'll say approved on condition that a lease agreement also be approved.
Okay, anything else? If not, let's do a roll call vote, starting from Lon-Lot and ending with Greg.
Lon-Lot, yes.
Jessica Smuin, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Okay, we will go to item E, which is the Three Falls Upper Parking Lot Plan.
Okay, so this is a proposal for a parking lot plan. This is up by the pond in Three Falls. You can see here on the screen the approximate location of that. And so there would be an 18-foot driveway that accesses off of the road there to get to the 6 parking stalls. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this, and they discussed it. They requested input from the Trail Committee, and they did receive that feedback. And so the Trail Committee saw this as potentially, they did not recommend it. They felt like it was a potential for kind of shuttling that could occur, you know, going from the top up here on the mountain and then you'd ride down and then someone would shuttle you back up. So they had some concerns about that. As far as the Planning Commission was concerned, they recommended it. They did end up recommending approval of this with the condition that 2 of those 6 spots be ADA designated. And so, yeah, then it's now here for the City Council to consider.
Austin, could I just make one quick comment? Was it the Trail Committee that had the shuttling concerns? I thought that was just Councilman or Planning Commission member Alan McDonald.
It was a concern of Alan McDonald's, but it was also a concern of the Trail Committee. So, yeah.
Okay.
It was from both.
Just a comment on the ADA stalls, and I wasn't at the Planning Commission, but the number of ADA stalls required is based on the number of total stalls in a parking lot. As I recall, up to 20 stalls in a parking lot requires 1 ADA stall. So, don't necessarily have to have 2.
But I guess the 2 was originally planned on, right, in the original plat, and that's you know why we're doing those 2 beyond the the need.
The 2 stalls were shown in the development agreement, so it's in one of the exhibits, and so I think that's where that 2 ADA stall number comes from.
Okay.
The only question would be, could we do 1 to Shane's point?
Within the law and the ADA rules, I would say yes.
So we could do 1 ADA and 5 regular.
Yeah.
If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the parking lot in the Three Falls upper parking lot. Actually, I'll make a motion to approve the Three Falls upper parking lot with the only modification of changing it to 1 ADA and 5 parking stall and regular parking stalls.
Is that amenable to you guys? Okay, let's get a second and then we'll get a comment, okay? Is there a second on the motion? Is there a second on the motion? Seriously?
I'll second the motion because I want to hear the
Yeah,
comment.
let's at least have a discussion.
Can
Come on.
I just want to say, should we deviate from the development agreement?
That's true.
That's where I'm not seconding
Yeah.
a motion that's deviating from a development agreement.
I'll withdraw my motion and make a
Okay.
new motion and make a motion that we approve the parking lot plan as proposed.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Did you have anything to say?
So just a couple of things. One is, we appreciate the discussion and collaboration that we've had with the city, or members of the city. Number two, the reason we had 2 ADA slots, just for reason because able-bodied people can walk up there using the trails, and so we wanted to have 2 ADA slots. It's just the background on that. And the community up there is supportive of this motion. But they would like to have something that says in the minutes that this is kind of, and I know you can't bind future city councils, but this is kind of it. There's not gonna be an upper parking lot by the water tank, and we're not gonna expand this to 20. Because I feel like there was a deal made many years ago when the development agreement first went in, and now it's being modified. And so it feels like being incrementalized, and so if there could just be a note to the minutes or something like that, that this is the intent, that was the request and support. I don't know if that's proper protocol or not, but that's what everybody requested up there. So that's it. Do you have any questions for me?
No, but I appreciate your comments, but I personally don't feel comfortable doing what you requested. But I'm fine to approve this. And,
Okay.
I'll just have the meeting go forward.
Okay.
So there's been a motion and a second. Are there any further questions?
I have some discussion on it. I've driven up there and parked where this would be. And one of the concerns I have is we've been working so diligently over the past years to try and keep anything out of our open spaces in Lambert Park. Why are we moving into this area and trying to expand it into a bigger parking type area? I would even suggest that we don't put any parking in there.
Lon, we put in a huge parking lot in Lambert Park.
Well, down right on the outside edge, just like there's a huge parking lot
This
down
is-
at the bottom of this open space.
Right, but they were gonna put 2 parking stalls in it already. Why not?
I know.
Allow people to access, and it's off of a road.
I know. So, Mayor, I'm not going to debate you on this. I'm going to make my comments, if you let me make my comments then. My thoughts are that as we have been working at providing an area for people to hike, bike, and move about in these open spaces, we do provide a parking area like we have in Lambert Park down by the church, a very small one at the end of Moyle Drive, and then up in the rodeo grounds there is some. This, in the concept, as this was moving forward in the beginning, and all the open space was being provided to the city in the negotiations of Three Falls. That particular area where the pond is was one of those areas where we would like to provide for others to see it, like a handicap situation. That was the discussion then, and that was why it was limited to 2, is there is no reason why others should really even be parking up there. I'm thinking that if you expand that and make it so big that many others will want to park up there, you will have many others parking up there. So in listening to the Planning Commission's discussion this last week, and the concept of shuttling, I never had thought of that before, but that's a good idea for me to go downhill all the time and not uphill. But that would just provide an area for those who are looking for an easy way out of a hike. But that's just my opinion, and I was good back years ago for the two.
I think so.
And definitely we discussed that it wouldn't be asphalt, that it would just be a graveled access there. And so there again, when we talk about ADA, people would just really be able to drive up there. They wouldn't be able to take a wheelchair out on gravel per se. And if they're wanting to look at the pond, I guess they would just drive up on the road by the pond and look at it and drive by. But those are my thoughts, Mayor.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Austin, is this, like, between the road and the parking lot, is that public or private? Is that open space? Is it not?
The
open
area
space?
between the road and the parking lot, that is public open space.
Okay. Yeah, and then the original, because I don't know what the original plan was just 2 spots?
Yeah, so when this subdivision was approved, there was a development agreement that was drafted, and in there was an exhibit which showed how this area would be developed. It was to be kind of a natural open space with 2 ADA stalls. So that's
So
what we have.
so if someone wasn't ADA, they couldn't park there?
No.
They would have to
No,
be.
yeah, they would have to park down
But
below.
that part of the development agreement is specifically on the developer's requirement of the development agreement.
Right, Mayor. So I had a question on that. So is the city, paying and installing all of this, or is there any sort of thought that, the 2 spots are paid by the development or the HOA or whatever, since that was kind of the original design? I don't know if we've, talked about that or if there's a plan either way.
It is it's in our budget on a light item here. We have 10,000 listed for it.
Yeah, we haven't really, unless it's been discussed related to planning commission, we haven't discussed it in detail with the HOA or developer.
And we're
Okay.
proposing this be
So-
paved or road
No,
base?
road base.
Road base.
So, yeah.
Just one comment on that. When we talked about this months or maybe even over a year ago, I had suggested the first little bit away from the road be paved. When we did that at the South Lambert Park parking lot, it made a huge difference for the cleanliness of the road. Because all the rocks can kind of fall out of the tires or whatever on the asphalt there before they get on the street.
That's good.
Agreed.
If it's 30 feet or whatever, just part of it.
So in the hopefully the last comment I'll make is when I've driven up there a few times just to see what it's like. And lawn, like, I would say 2 out of the probably 4 or 5 times I've driven up there are cars they pull up over the curb of the road, almost exactly where this is, and park on the grass or the dirt to see the view. So I'm like, something like that might be beneficial to keep people from, going over the curb and doing something else with the open space and parking on the road. So, it seems kind of beneficial to me. The shuttling, I don't know, Trails Committee, is that a huge concern?
I don't think it's a huge concern because a typical.
Okay.
Yeah. So a typical shuttle situation is what you have in Draper, right? You have a situation where you have a trailhead at the bottom, trailhead at the top, and you can drive to the top, literally maybe take a pedal or 2, and you're coasting all the way downhill. You don't have the same situation here. I would have to, kind of disagree, because even if you're, wherever you go from here, you're going up. it's not a situation where you're just pedaling down unless you're just going down the road, and who's gonna shuttle to drive down the road? I wouldn't
This
think
isn't
so.
a
It's not a hu-
shuttle.
It's not a
It's not a
huge
shuttle.
concern.
This is not a shuttle situation.
I would never shuttle it.
Well, you could still be dropped off, on the road, right? Versus in the parking lot either way, right?
Totally.
Right, but you still have to, what I'm saying is if you're going on the trails, no matter which trail you go onto here, you have the Three Falls Trail that goes up to Suncrest. That's all uphill pretty much. You have the, what is it? Not Forbidden. Yeah, Forbidden. You have to climb up that before you start going down. You've got the continuation of the Three Falls Trail, or is it called the Fort Canyon Trail, that goes to Bodley Harm. That you're still climbing. So every direction you go on these trails from here is you're climbing. So it's not a true shuttle situation. For me, the only reason you would shuttle is to cut the climb out, and you're not doing it here.
Yeah, Will said it's not a big concern.
Okay, so is there any further discussion? If not,
I have a question.
Okay.
What's the total acreage of the Three Falls development? 812. Okay, and what's the total acreage of Lambert, like 260?
yeah.
Yeah, right
And do
around
we
that.
have 3 parking lots in Lambert for 260 acres?
Yeah,
Okay,
about that.
okay. That's it.
Any other comments? Greg, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, that's all. Thanks. It's just, I think we'd had some discussion about, we want to discourage parking there at night. I think that's something we could work on, put a sign there that, says this is,
And I would totally welcome you guys being able to chain that off at night if that's what you want to do. I don't.
Yeah.
love
Or we
providing
can work with
spaces.
the police like they do in their parks. There's other options there too.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. So,
I'm
okay.
just saying, if Highland gets to do it, we get to do it.
And you
Just
can
get
say close at
One, we get to pick
sundown.
one.
I think so. Dusk to dawn.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so-
a standard.
We can do a roll call vote. We'll start from Lon Lot and end with Greg Gordon.
Oh, one more
Wait,
thing.
I want,
Oh,
Does this
okay,
does
sorry.
this include the little bit of? I like that pavement idea to keep the dust
I
down
think
from
we
the
need to
Yeah.
add
on the
some
road.
conditions.
Do we need to add
I
that?
would suggest it.
Let's add some conditions to this.
Okay, so did you want to amend the motion?
Do I amend your motion?
Wait, I thought I seconded.
You
Oh,
did. So he's
you're
got to
gonna
amend it and you
amend
can.
Okay,
Just amend it to put that. However, just change discretion.
How many
The
feet do you
the
think?
pavement.
Asphalt.
Asphalt off the road, so to keep the
keep
dust
gravel.
and debris down from going on the main road.
Are you okay?
I
with
would, can we also add something about closed from dusk to,
Dust to dawn.
yeah,
Ooh, I like that.
that gives a little bit for public safety to enforce.
And that this lot be closed from dusk to dawn.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll
And
second
you're okay
that.
with that? Okay. Any other discussion? If not, roll call vote from Lon and then ending with Greg.
Lawn lot, I'm for what we originally planned, but this does sound okay to me. I will say aye.
Jessica Smuin, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Okay, the motion passes. We'll go on to item F, which is ordinance 2022-09, definition of major street plan. So it's just a slight modification, right?
Yeah, this is just a really simple amendment to the ordinance. So we have a definition for major street plan, and we just want to modify that definition to make it so that our adopted transportation master plan that we have in our general plan is clearly defined as the major street plan. So that's what this correction is proposing, or amendment, I'm sorry.
Does anybody have questions?
I just had a question. This looks like it goes into definitions of streets in Alpine. Do we need to add to the definition something defining secondary access?
I am not positive if we have a definition of secondary access. Do we have that?
There is a definition of it in a couple of other places. I just didn't know because it was a classification. I guess that's, because it is a
Yeah.
classification that we use. Does that need, and if you look at our transportation master plan, we actually have it in the legend. And so since it exists in the legend, should it be defined in our zoning ordinance?
So that's, I mean, I know in the past when we've had to do secondary access roads, we've kind of deferred to the fire code and, you know, what does that mean? And so it just has to be a passable road.
Can you pull up our transportation master plan map? Because we do reference it in here, and so we can look at the key on that.
So, hey, Austin, I've got a question. Someone mentioned that they're trying to watch on YouTube and they're saying that they don't have access. Do you know, are people able to watch it live?
It should be a public YouTube channel that anyone can pull up.
So I think if I understand this right, we define arterial collector, if you go back up to I think we define minor, local. So for consistency, should we add that definition?
My thought is we can add that in there, but it wasn't on the proposal that went through the public hearing and all of that, so it probably needs to come later.
Okay.
Is that correct, Craig?
I don't think so. We can still change it. The public hearing, I thought, was for, and correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, to get input, but we're not limited by what we can do on the city council by what was discussed in the public hearing. Right? Or am I
You're
wrong?
absolutely correct.
So we can do whatever we want. When the public hearing happened, we can listen to it on YouTube, but we can still, if we wanted to, do what Jessica is.
Well, and we're changing the language. We didn't carbon copy it. We actually have, it looks like a strikeout and some language changed. So we don't have to
Well,
reset it exactly.
my comment was related to, this was specifically about referencing the transportation master plan, but no other definitions. But I know you had asked, I think Jed provided kind of an analysis.
Yeah.
That I think that information could be taken and draft some
And what I asked
additional
for is,
language or whatever.
we refer to private roads, and do we have them or don't have them? And let's just clear it up. And to your point, maybe that's the place to do it, but I would like to put that on the agenda item to clarify some of those roads. Just to Jessica's point, I think that's good to define that, but I really want to make sure we understood private driveways versus private roads and what's allowed and what's not allowed and clean that up entirely.
So maybe we can address those two things in the same.
So why don't you two get together with Austin and Jed if need be and work on those things?
Okay.
Can you guys do that for a future meeting and get it on the agenda since there's two of you guys?
And so
Meanwhile,
would that affect what we're addressing right here, right now? Or should we just make a motion to?
yeah, I think we should move
table it.
forward and I think we could pass this.
Yeah, okay.
And then they can bring what they want to at a future meeting and put it on the agenda.
An additional text amendment
Yeah.
to the ordinance.
So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion for item F.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-11 as proposed.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, we'll proceed with the roll call
Wait,
vote.
Well, hang on a second, 22-11, I'm not
No, it was
reading that.
22-09.
I'm not reading that the same,
It was 09.
yeah. Are you,
Yep, I was on the previous one.
okay, 09 is what I was looking
Yes.
at.
That's correct.
Okay.
So
All right.
we are voting on ordinance 2022-09. Let's do a roll call vote, starting from Jason Thielen, ending with Greg.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Jessica Smewen, yes.
Lon Lot, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Okay, let's move on to item G.
Okay, so this is a proposed amendment to the ordinance, specifically the open space ordinance. So our open space ordinance defines open space into two different categories. We have, and this is public open space, I'm sorry, public open space into two different categories: natural open space and developed open space. And so the way it currently reads right now, we allow recreational improvements which are incidental to the natural area within natural open space. But, you know, sometimes, I guess we're just trying to clarify what a recreational improvement is. And so we're adding some additional language here that says, such as trails, parking, bike stations, kiosks, and other similar improvements. Again, and this is to clarify what a recreational improvement is that's incidental to the natural area.
Should we add like benches or anything like that?
We do
'Cause they're
have,
throughout-
I mean, benches are a significant thing that was probably would be
But-
good to add.
'Cause they're
Yeah, I'd like to add benches, pavilions, restrooms, and water fountains for clarity.
I don't think we have any water fountains.
No, but could we?
Yeah, we don't want to.
You could put one, I think, by the restrooms pretty easily.
So, any other additions?
Nope, I think Greg should make that motion.
Yeah.
Okay, Greg, do you want to make that?
Sure. I move to approve ordinance 2022-09 as
11.
No, this one is,
It's 11.
no, this one is 10, isn't it?
No,
It's 11.
this is 2022-11, Greg. 09 was the major street plan that we just approved.
Oh, in my packet, it says
Yeah.
definition of natural open space.
I think this one is actually.
Oh, yeah, no, up in the cover sheet, it's 09. So this is 10?
10 is what
Okay,
what I'm
Mine-
reading right now.
Mine
hold
says-
on, yeah, so we've got it both ways in there, okay. I move to approve ordinance 2022-10 with the following changes that we add in the new language after the word kiosks, benches, pavilions, restrooms, water fountains.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, just make sure we're clear. It should be 2022-10, even though the agenda cover sheet says 11. The document says 22-10.
The document, oh, you're referring to the actual document.
Not the
Okay.
agenda line item.
Yeah, so what happened is, so the one that's,
Oh,
the
it
actual document needs to be corrected because 09 is the correct number. 10 has actually already been adopted. It's an ordinance that was adopted in a previous meeting.
Okay, so
We just did 09, Jason.
we just did 09,
So that one should have been
the
what's,
original one that
outlined
was.
on the cover sheet, which should have been 11. Major street plan should be ordinance 11. And the open
Yeah.
space should be 9.
Okay,
Oh, so the
So we
numbers
better
are backwards.
redo those?
Okay.
Yeah, we had a mix up in our files.
okay,
So-
well, I'm reading, what I'm reading
Okay.
is what I'm reading.
So it should be 9. Is that right?
Yes, that's what we're being told.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion that for ordinance 2022-9, and that that the definition of natural open space be numbered as 2022-09 instead of -10.
And I agree with that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, let's take a roll call vote.
Lon Lot, aye.
Jessica Smuda.
Yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Okay, let's go to item H. I'm not sure what that number's supposed to be, so I'm gonna
Do we
leave
need
it.
to redo the one that Jason did? Because technically he did.
I think a
09.
motion just to make sure that we have our numbers straight.
You want to make a motion for the?
I'll make a motion to clarify the definition of major street plan. It should be ordinance 2022-9.
11.
No.
I'm looking at this one again.
11. Is the master list wrong?
Ugh.
Because it has 9 as
I know,
definition of
it's-
major street plan in our Z drive.
On the Z drive has definition of major street plan as 09.
I've got one of each.
So the logic here, okay, so the logic is, we what do you call it, repealed an ordinance, we repealed the Canyon Crest widening project, if you remember.
Right.
And so that was ordinance 10,
Oh,
2022-10.
So this was the other.
The original.
And so the reason why the major street plan has to be 11 is because it's restoring a piece of that ordinance that was repealed in ordinance 10. So that's
Jason
why.
is
I'll do it
just
again.
saying
I'll make a motion to
11.
modify the ordinance number of definition of major street plan to ordinance 2022-11.
Okay, is there a second?
I second that one.
Okay. Let's have a vote starting
Don't
with
look at this
Jason.
one. Don't.
Jason.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Jessica Smuda, yes.
Lon Lot, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
So what number is item H? What ordinance?
2022-12.
It is for sure? Okay.
Yes.
Okey doke. Let's
I'm
move
pretty
on
sure.
to item H.
I asked for a number and that's the one I was given, so I don't know what's right.
Water management program.
Yeah, so this is just adopting an ordinance to continue our same water management program we've had the last several years. That, you know, when we finalize our pressure irrigation rates, that's something that we'll need to decide if, you know, how we're gonna handle a watering schedule. So this could change not too far down the road if we decide that's the best direction to go. But for right now, I think we should put this in place, especially with the drought conditions.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2022-12, the water management program.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 2022-12 water management program. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll start with the roll call votes with Lana.
Lon Lot, yes.
Jessica Smuda, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Okay. We'll move on to staff reports. Chiefs? What?
Was that a motion to adjourn?
Are you bringing breakfast?
7:30.
We'll be there. Both of you, okay. Austin,
I have nothing tonight.
Craig,
Just for your information, the brief that we were required to file with the Court of Appeals on the Blue Bison matter was filed Friday. It was timely. I have dropped off a hard copy of it's not the bound version, but it was the final version of the draft. I think Councilmember Schoen hasn't. If you want to share, if you want an original email copy, happy to send it to you. We got it on Thursday afternoon. And
I would love to have an email copy.
pardon me, thank you. I'll do it. It'll be in the afternoon, Jason, in the morning, tomorrow. I think that is all.
okay.
Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
Heidi, do you have anything? Shane?
I'll try to be quick so you don't have to extend the meeting past 9, okay?
It's only 8 o'clock. Oh, my dude.
How about 8 o'clock?
Hey, this is the first time in how long that we've been on this.
It's daylight.
I won't take long. Thanks to Heidi for filling in tonight. It's her first time taking minutes. She's had a busy day, so. The mayor sent out an email. It was either the first of last week or the end of the previous, just asking for any feedback on this active transportation plan. So in that email, the attachment didn't make it, and then I sent the attachment just right after. It kind of outlines the process that I think it was Fair and Piers went through for the Saratoga active transportation plan. So we were just, Mag suggested we kind of use that as a model for tasks. If you have any comments or anything on that, they wanted the input back within a couple of weeks, and we're there, I think, Thursday. So if you have any comments, get those to us and we'll include them. It looked like a pretty comprehensive list of tasks to me. Just an update on some projects. The legacy sprinkler project's going well over here. It's hit and miss depending on what else is going on because we're doing that in-house. The Westfield Road sidewalk project has started. They've kind of grubbed out for sidewalk, and we'll be taking, right now where the ditch comes right against the road, there's a rock wall that's almost vertical. They'll be taking those rocks out. We asked to be able to keep those rocks, and the contractor was more than happy to haul them closer rather than further away. We're planning, unless there's an issue, we're planning to take some of those rocks up to the rodeo grounds and further blocking off where they kind of go up towards the Peterson property. So if you see equipment up there or whatever, that's what's happening. It might take a little bit to get the rocks placed, but that's the plan right now. The cemetery expansion, like I mentioned before, has started. There's a lot of oak brush up there. And I actually meant to talk to Chief Patton before. The company that we have cutting those trees down, they were planning to chip the trees and to haul that off, and we were gonna take some of it and put in some kind of the perimeter of Creekside Park where there's evergreen trees. But they asked Cal today if we would consider letting them burn some of that brush. The only way I would feel comfortable doing it is if we had a brush truck there and everything was, the chief felt good about it. But I told Cal I would bring this up tonight and see if that's something that you'd consider, as opposed to having it all chipped and hauled off. If we're gonna do it, it's a good time of year to do it probably, so.
Chief, what do you think?
I love fires.
No.
We'd be happy to help.
Anybody oppose?
We don't want to.
Where's it located?
It's the north end of the cemetery, up, so south of Pioneer
So we're
Drive.
doing the expansion right now.
Yeah, yeah. That's a pretty isolated area. It's not like you're gonna burn down the whole mountainside or anything.
Yeah, I just, if we happen to get a call, somebody will probably call. I'd like the support of the council if we're gonna do it, so.
What kind of savings does it give us again?
It's probably, it probably helps them as much as the contractor, as much as anything. And less traffic on the roads, but.
What do you think?
Well, if it doesn't, if there's not really a cost savings, I would say just,
Might be good to have those wood chips to use in the parks.
Yeah,
yeah, versus the smoke that's gonna go up and everyone's gonna complain.
there'd be some smoke because it's all
Green.
in live green vegetation,
So
so.
could we use the wood chips in the parks and the playground and just refill that, or?
Not in the playgrounds, but
It's
the
not.
beds, it'd be fine. We've done it before.
What do you
So.
think, Lon?
Yeah,
This is your wheelhouse.
yeah, I'd probably chip it.
Yeah, there's one person I know we get a complaint from, so.
I think, yeah, my mic wasn't on. I would chip it.
Okay.
Okay, we've started on the Heli Park improvements. Hopefully, within 2 weeks, the pavilion will be up. So we'll do the foundations, the little pillars, the pavilion will be installed, and then we'll pour the concrete for the floor. And then we'll start working on the playground, so. Let's see. Oh, and then, if you've driven out on Canyon Crest Road, we're working on that little section that did not have curb and gutter, and that should be done probably, at least the concrete part of it, within the next week or so, and then we'll get it paved and get everything put back together.
Is that gonna get done on where 200 turns into Eagle View too? You know how they did the curb up to a certain point, and then there's a fire hydrant, a pole, and an electrical box, and then about 50, 100 feet, and then a sidewalk.
The stuff they're working on right
Yeah.
now, it will connect.
That's gonna connect, okay.
Yeah. Yep, it will connect. They're waiting for a power pole to be moved, so
Gotcha.
they can finish it, so.
Yeah. I got it.
I've received feedback on the pressure irrigation rate study from Jessica and Greg. If anyone else has any feedback, if you could get it to me in the next day or so, I'd like to keep that moving and bring it back to our next city council meeting, with those revisions.
Well, Shane, on that, I've seen Greg's, I got an email on that one. Did everyone get his comments on that? Because I would like to discuss some of the things that he's brought out, at least have discussion as a council. Is that what you're intending to do when we get back together, or are you trying to get it all wrapped up and then just decide?
We can do it that way, and then maybe the next meeting bring something back with kind of an updated model or the changes into the model.
Okay.
If all the comments were kind of the same, we would tweak the model and bring that back to the next meeting.
I'm with you on that, but I would still like to discuss what was, as a council, discuss those points.
So we'll plan on just bringing back for discussion, the points that have been raised, and if anyone else has any, we can add those in. And then we'll collect the feedback, get it to Fred Philpott, and plan for the next meeting, to look at the model again. So the last several years, we've had restrictions on fireworks. Last year, we did an all-out ban. State law says that if cities are going to, restrict fireworks in areas, it needs to be done by June 1st. So any thoughts for this year?
My thoughts is a similar restricted area as we've had in the past.
Prior
Maybe
to last year?
Prior to last year, not eliminate it completely, but to a modified version like we've had in the past, is my thought. Trying to keep it away from the hills.
And then if things got really dire, we could make a change later, right?
That's my thought. Listen to others.
If that's, we have one council meeting before June 1st. Seems crazy to be talking about June already, but we can bring that back on the next agenda if that's the kind of the consensus.
Chief, what's your opinion on fireworks?
He likes fires.
He likes fires.
I mean, last year was phenomenal. We didn't have any fires on 4th of July. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody understood the threat. I think if we're in the same situation this year, people will understand the threat. I think people, I think people should do fireworks if they want to, if they want to celebrate that way, but with the restrictions that have always been in place, keeping it, off the hills, but.
What do you think, Jess?
I'd rather start more restricted, and then if it looks like we're gonna be okay, we back off, then send out, we're gonna kind of restrict it, and then we have to come back in, and then people are confused.
What do you think?
Yeah.
I'm kind of the same. I haven't seen anything that says this year's gonna be less dry than last year. So if last year we took those measures and it's gonna be just as dry, I would probably opt for those same measures.
What about you, Jason?
I tend to agree probably with Lon on it, meaning got a lot of pushback because we were taking away people's right to it. And I understand that you can't make everyone happy all the time, but
I think that's because we use certain language. And I think if we look at it differently and approach it differently, it might be received differently. So,
What do you think, Greg?
You know, I'm not totally sure. I think if there's a safe way that people can actually use them down low, that's good. But I do think in our messaging, we should include something about, you know, cleaning up their fireworks. I'm not sure we've done that in the past, but I think that's where we get, you know, some of our problems from a practical matter is it's dark and people leave them out on the roads or on parking lots, parks and schools and so on. You know, I think that would be appropriate, but you know, I don't know. Last year we had some good, we banned them and we didn't have any fires. I think it may help. I don't know. I guess I would opt to allow it down low. I think we do see some occasional violations and more when it's allowed partially, but.
Okay, so it looks like you've got a majority who want to allow limited access, so kind of going with the same map that we've gone in the past.
And I think that's easier to justify in state law. Craig, would you agree? Because it's.
Yeah, all out ban, you really have a hard time justifying all out. You know, somebody could go to a park, you know, a large park down low and shoot them off. And I don't know if they're allowed in the parks, but.
no.
No, our restrictions.
Oh, why don't we do
no,
that?
our
Let's have
Just this
everyone
time.
go to
4th of
one
July.
park.
No,
We did
they
that.
didn't.
We did-
just
No.
Creekside.
Oh, no.
Our restrictions eliminate.
That was a disaster.
That was the
Eliminate parks
most fun
to
night
be-
I've ever had in
Okay.
my life. I want to say that.
So,
The year before we banned it in there, it was
Yeah, that was,
amazing.
it
It
was
was like
scary.
war zone.
Okay, I regret that
Okay.
I said that.
Okay, next item. Jay.
That's actually my last item.
Oh,
so.
great. Lon?
yeah, I will get you feedback on your rate, on the rate study. Just a question on the Westfield Road rock coming out. What is the retaining going to be there then?
It's,
Concrete?
it's concrete blocks.
Okay,
Yep, the
Right.
gravity blocks.
all right. Thanks, that's all.
Jessica?
So June 4th is National Trail Day, and we want to do a community event. I've spoken with Kelly and Heather Pepper of the Trails Committee, and we're gonna, it's kind of in developmental stage, so any feedback would be great. We just want to gather at probably Lambert Park and have different trail users represented. We're gonna have equestrian etiquette. We'll do something about historical. We'll potentially do, you know, do you want to learn how to mountain bike? What are the easy trails to do that? A general exposure. We've got a lot of new move-ins, and we just want to introduce new move-ins or people that might be curious about a different aspect of our trail system, and also really educate them around all of our new kiosks. Will they mostly be in by June? I know they're all set.
I think they're all set. I need to follow up with Jed where we're at on
Okay.
signage.
You know, kind of introduce the new kiosks. Those are really cool features, and so would love any input. If anyone wants to be involved, we want to do a bike with council members or hike with commissioners. Just a real inclusive. I don't know if any firefighters want to come out or police officers want to come bike, or just an outreach and connection with the community. That's
Anything
it.
else?
No.
Kelly?
Okay, well, I actually have a bunch of stuff, so. Okay, pickleball courts. We just passed pickleball courts. So in working with Alpine Days and looking at the plan for Alpine Days, that space is looking like it's gonna be heavily used. So the thing is, like, if the pickleball courts aren't gonna be completely done before Alpine Days, and Shane said they probably won't be started, but we should
haven't
just
gone
know.
for an RFP yet. So.
Yeah, we should just know that they're not gonna be started until after Alpine Days. Cause otherwise it's gonna throw a major cramp into Alpine Days.
And I've thought about this some more. If we do that, chances are they would not be able to be surfaced until spring. Cause they don't go very late, at least in dealing with the tennis company, they don't. They really need the temperatures
We want the
to cure
concrete
it.
to cure properly.
So,
Pardon me?
We want the concrete to cure properly. That's why
Yeah.
it's not go late in the season.
Yeah. So that probably will be the schedule for the courts, right?
Next year then,
Yeah.
meaning surfaced, try and get them installed this year, surfaced next year.
yeah.
And then I think it's August 8th, that Monday night is the dinner for Alpine, I guess, that traditionally the city council puts
The
on.
family dinner.
The family dinner. And so I'll be asking all of you to participate in that, getting everything together for that. So plan on that Monday night. I think it's August 8th.
Are we cooking hamburgers again?
Hamburgers, hot dogs, drinks, chips, cheese, condiments.
I think I singed my eyebrows with that.
We need a better cooker.
Yeah.
Cooker.
That one
Yeah,
was-
I heard like we had one thing that didn't work. So we'll make sure we have some good apparatus there to cook all that stuff. There's a couple of interesting schedule changes they made to it that I think is going to actually work out well in just placement of stage and who's going when and all that kind of stuff. The other piece is for the parade. There's also a request for the city council to have candy and shirts that we're gonna throw out. So if you all wanna participate in that, that'd be awesome. And mayor, obviously, the council mayor.
Can I add something?
What's our mode of transportation, sorry?
That's okay.
For the parade?
Yeah.
What do you want it to be?
Fire truck.
Can we do a fire truck?
Motorcycle. A Harley would be nice.
Back of the Harley? Okay.
And let me ask of this, AYC would like to be wherever we are in the parade at the beginning behind us, since they're an extension of city council. So
Okay.
is that okay with you, Kelly, if AYC is placed
Yes.
after us?
Talk to me after this about the kind of AYC Alpine Days kind of connection.
Okay. I can tell you where we're at. I met
Oh,
with them last week.
You did? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Okay.
What else do we have?
Just on the Blue Bison thing, we've talked a lot about that. I got some texts from concerned people that they had heard that Alpine had told Draper that we wanted a road. And so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Like, I wasn't around for that vote, but you all voted a certain way and we're all the way to the Supreme Court. So please, let's all be in lockstep here. And I don't know how that got to Draper and how that got back to people and then got to me, but let's make sure if there's something that, for example, a dog wash that you all vote for and I don't vote for, I'm not gonna go around trying to undo the dog wash, right? That's what you voted for and the city council decided, therefore the citizens decided, and I'm gonna support that.
So it would be nice to know what the information is, because,
Oh, I'll update.
okay.
Jason?
But the dog wash was important to me, just so you know.
I know, it hurt. I know, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly. Was that it, or is there more?
No, that's it, thanks.
Jason?
So on your, with the shirts, you're throwing shirts at Alpine Days to residents?
Yes.
I was gonna say, and the only reason, I have nothing to say because we're almost done. But Lon Lot had an Alpine City shirt at the St. George Convention, and he was the only one. It might be nice to think about just getting, Alpine City shirt for those type of things, because it was kind of neat to see all the other cities with their Harriman shirts and their, I don't know, just a thought. not important in the whole scheme of things. I'm done.
That's
Let's
the
do
whole, he
that.
just takes really good care of it, but we were waiting
For the new.
for the new logo, and then now we have it, we can
We'll do
do
it.
that, so.
Hey, Greg, did you have anything you want, any reports?
Just that I think it's a good time to start thinking ahead to Alpine's 175th anniversary and how the city can have a big celebration for that in a couple, few years here. Whether that's Alpine Days or something special for, roughly 3 years from now.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, I've got a couple of stuff. I kind of wanted to I was thinking maybe for our next work session, if we can get updates on everybody's assignments or council assignments and what they're working on and where they're at. So can I get that from you guys? Maybe next our next city council meeting?
Like our committee
Shane?
assignments?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your city council assignments for different committees and whatnot. I, again, wanted to thank Jess and city staff for doing such an amazing job for getting us almost $100,000 in grants for improvements for the city. Thanks for all your hard work. And then with Blue Bison, I spoke with David Dobbins, their city administrator, and also their mayor and a city councilman. And they told me in no uncertain terms that a crash gate would not work for them. This was a couple weeks ago down in St. George. And that wouldn't work for them. The only way they would do that is if Alpine took total and complete responsibility for all the liability for that subdivision or that development going in. And I said, that doesn't work for us. And then they said, well, the only thing that, we would be okay with is either a full road or a private gated community on both sides. And then I told them, we have a city ordinance that doesn't allow private gated communities. And so when I was talking to Dave yesterday regarding Blue Bison and the supposed citations, which they weren't doing, he mentioned that he had spoken with Blue Bison earlier yesterday and told them that Draper City would not allow a crash gate, period. So that was just a message that, he relayed to me. And I said, okay, I'll let council know. So that's where they're at this point. So he told Blue Bison to just go with their original approval, which is 1 access, 30 homes. So that's where they're at, so that there's no confusion. And then I think that's it.
Is there anything new at the legislature side that might force the city
No,
to do something?
no, legislatures was over back in,
And nothing happened at it?
no,
No.
no, no.
Discussed?
Nothing even came up. So I think Mayor Osler spoke with the people from the Utah Homeowners Association. I guess one of his residents is part of that and kind of explained what was going on, and I think they kind of dropped it, but who knows?
I think you skipped Greg.
No, he mentioned
Oh,
the
my bad, sorry.
175,
175.
so at 2025, is that,
2020.
we'll have a big, well, it's not a jubilee. Jubilee's what, 75
Hoe
years?
down, square dance.
Well, yeah, we'll figure something. We've got 3 years to plan, so yay. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion
I make a
to-
motion that we adjourn.
Second?
Okay,
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.